Hi, we will talk about the variables. So till now, whatever the Terraform configuration we have done, we have used lots of hard-coded values, and we must eliminate those values as much as possible, right? So those values has to be replaced with the variables. In Terraform, we have variables which we can define in two ways. One is the variable, which in my opinion, it is a global variable, and second one is local variable. So variables, which in my opinion are global variables, these are generally defined in a separate file so that it can be used across the Terraform configuration files. But that's not mandatory. You can define variables in the Terraform configuration file itself if it is required. Variables are defined with a block name called variable. We'll see that in upcoming examples. And the local variables are defined within the Terraform config file, and its block name is called local. So let's start with the variable which, in my opinion, is the global. Why I'm saying it's a global because those variables can be used across the configuration file. So variables are defined into a separate file, and the name of the file can be of your choice, but it should have the extension .tf. So for example, if the file name is myvariables.tf and its content looks like in this slide. So it starts with the block name called variable and then followed by the name of the variable. And this variable contains a block where you can define a couple of stuff. I have just defined here three things, which is the type of the variable, what is the default value of variable, and the description. All the arguments inside this variable all are optional. None of them are mandatory. For example, if you don't define a type, Terraform will consider it as a string type. And if you don't define a default value here for the variable, it becomes a mandatory variable. So how you use these variables inside the configuration file? So there is a keyword called var. So all the variables which is loaded by Terraform, that can be referred with a keyword called var and then your variable name. Suppose if you have a duplicate variable names in multiple files, in the order the Terraform will read those files, the last value which it will read for that particular variable, that will be considered as the value of that variable. So how we assign the value to the variable? There are many ways actually you can assign the value to the variable. One is that you can provide in the command line, or you can provide through variable definition files. You can provide through the environment variable, or you can supply the value of the variable in the UI. We'll talk about each of them in the coming slides. So first start with the command line option. So whenever you run Terraform plan and Terraform apply, you can supply the value of the variable with an parameter called -var. So in this example, Terraform plan -var is equal to VM option is equal to US Central 1B. So here, if VM-zone has been used inside the configuration file, that will be replaced with the US Central 1B. So same way with the Terraform apply. Next is variable definition files. So variable definition files, you have a three ways you can define the values inside the file. The first one is using the file name terraform.tfvar or terraform.tfvars.json. Terraform.tfvars.json is in a JSON format, and terraform.tfvars is in HCL format, which is a HashiCorp configuration language. So the advantage of providing these variables in those files is basically Terraform will automatically pick up those values defined in those files. So you don't need to pass these files as an argument to the command or anything you just supply those files and it will pick up. For example, If you define these values in the file like it is given in a yellow box here, and then you run the Terraform plan, for example, it will not look for any further argument. Actually, it will pick up all the variables from terraform.tf. Second way of assigning the values, you can have any file name with the extension of .auto.tfvar, or same way .auto.tfvars.json. These files also will be picked up automatically. So for example, if you provide a file like my variable values.auto.tfvars, Terraform will pick up automatically these files. You don't have to supply as an argument or something like that. It will automatically pick up as it picks up the terraform.tfvars. Same way it picks up the .auto.tfvars as well. Third way is you can define any file name with the tfvars extension. In this case, we need to supply this file name with an argument called -var -file with the Terraform plan and Terraform apply, so that these commands will pick up the values from this file. One example is given here: Terraform plan minus var minus files is equal to my variables.tfvar. If you need to supply multiple files, in that case, you can have -var -files multiple times and you can supply the multiple files in that. Next one is the environment variables. You can create the environment variables with the variable names which you have defined inside your config file. But environment variable name should start with tf underscore var underscore. So here we have given one example, like we can export tf underscore var underscore vm underscore zone is equal to the zone name. And when you run the Terraform plan or Terraform apply, it will pick up this environment variable and it will pick up VM zone from here and replace it wherever it is applied. But in this case, you have to be careful like how you define and use your variables inside your configuration file, because environment variable does not take the all sort of variables. It has its own restrictions. For example, it cannot take dashes in between the name. So you need to remove the dashes from the name and then use it. Okay, next one is the UI input. So if you use the variables inside the configuration file, but the variable do not have a default value, and those value has not been defined in any of the ways we discussed earlier, and you run this command terraform plan or terraform apply, this will not find the value of the variable in anywhere. So that at that time it will ask you to supply the value of that variable as given in this example. When you supply these values, this command will work fine, but those values are not saved anywhere. So every time when you execute this command, you need to supply that value all the time. So this is not the recommended way to use in day-to-day activities. So these are the ways we define all the values of the variables. Now next is the data types. So Terraform data are categorized into two parts. One is called simple type, another is complex type. So simple types are string, numbers, and boolean. Those are self-explanatory. And the complex type again can be divided into two parts. One is called collection type, and the second one is called structure type. So collection types are list, map, and sets. All the variables of these types will carry the same type of value. For example, suppose list is defined as a string, so it will have only the string type of values. Or the map, actually, if it has all the elements inside that is defined as a string, then it will have all the values as a string, and so on. The second type of data is a structure type, and those are objects and tuples. Both of these should have a schema. That means you have to define the structure of the data which will come inside this, as well as you have to define the type of each data which is coming in. It can have a multiple type of data, like it can have a string type of data or number or boolean. So like it's not mandatory that all the elements inside the object or tuple should have the same type of data. No. So that's the structured type of data. Here I have provided a list of all the types, how you assign them, and how you use them. You can go through all of these data types and try to use in your examples. We will run through a couple of examples in a few seconds. So, there are a couple of differences which I want to just highlight here. The difference between the set and the list, those looks very similar, but the only difference is that the list may have the duplicate data. When you supply the data into list, actually you can have duplicate values inside, but set will not have a duplicate values in that. Next is tuple. Tuple also looks like very much like a list, but the difference is that it can have different type of data inside it, like may have string, integer, boolean, and all type of data. So there is another keyword called any. Any can be used as a placeholder where the type of the variable is not yet decided. So when you supply the actual values where type of the variable is any, at the runtime, the Terraform will try to convert them the actual type of data. For example, if you define a list of any type and you supply the list of string, it will automatically go and convert the list of a string type. It will try to convert based on the majority of the data or the type of data it's containing. So for example, if it is a mix of string and the numbers. So the string which is provided does not have the numbers in that. So those cannot be converted as a number. So all the numbers also will be converted as a string. Now talk about the local variables. So local variables in the programming terms you can consider as a local variable defined within the function, and its scope is only within the function. It cannot be used outside of the config file as we use the variables. So local variables also are defined as a variable. They are defined within the config file or modules with the block name of local. An example is given here, like inside the locals, I have defined the owner name or VM type name, and other locals which I have defined inside that local, I have used the local which is defined first. And when we use it, actually, we use the local dot, not local. Just be careful. Use the local dot, the variable name. And when we use inside the config file, same way we use the local dot, the variable name which we want to use it. That's it, guys, about the lecture. Let's jump into the exercises. Let's start with experiments, and we will go back to the variables. Let's start with defining the variables. So let's create a new project, and we will copy the main dot here. Okay, so we will work on this file. So let's close this one from here, go to P2, and what we'll do, we'll remove the unwanted stuff from here. We clean it up so that we can have a clear view of the code. Save this one, and let's try. Okay, sorry, because we are in a new project here, so we need to initialize this first. So initialization is done. Now try. Okay, so this is working fine. So let's start defining the variable. So for that we need a file. I'll create a new file called variables.df. Sorry, this has to be okay. So in this variable file, I will define this variable vm-zone, and I will not define anything. I will keep it empty and save this one. Go into the main and zone. I will just replace this with var dot. This is my variable name. Okay, that's it. Now we will run the command Terraform plan. Okay, here you go. Like we see here, like it is asking for the variable. This is a UI type of input, which we talked about UI input here. So because there is no default value assigned for this variable, it is requesting for the variable to supply. For example, if I supply a value here, say, so if you see here, the zone is central one, it has used that value. Now let's go back here and we'll use the command line option. Minus var inside the code, I'll say I will use this value and paste it here. VM zone is equal to C, for example. Use that and run it. See, this time it did not ask for the input because it has picked up from that variable and it is showing me here the central 1C. Now let's go here and define this variable. Okay. One B, for example. So now because we have defined the default value here, it will pick up this value. It will not ask for anything. Let's try. See, it did not ask for anything and it has used this value US central 1B. Okay, we have seen the command line option, we have seen the UI option, and variable definition file we will try. Before that, we'll try environment variable. So as I told in the theory section that it will not be able to utilize the dash in the environment variable, so I will replace this with underscore, and in the main file also I will use the underscore. So let's define the environment variable. Central 1F for this way. Enter. I'll go and remove this default value. Does not have any value defined here. So now I will try to use. Let me check the main. We are using VM underscore zone. Okay. VM underscore zone is defined here. So let's try plan. And see that it has picked up the central 1F which we have defined. So echo, we say this is use center 1, so we will insert this value. So this value has been set. Now if we try, it will start asking the value from the UI. We are not going to provide right now. Okay, command line option we have seen, environment variable we have seen, UI. Now we will talk about the variable definition files. So we will start with Terraform, this file Terraform tfvars. So let's create this file here. Okay, inside, now I don't want to use underscore here, so I will just change it to dash. So I will use this variable, go into the Terraform vars, and I'll assign this value. So now if we go into the command prompt and try to run Terraform, because you see in the previous execution it was asking for the UI input. Now if we run this command, it should not ask for the UI input, it should pick up the variable automatically from the Terraform tfvars files. So let's run. Here we go. So it has picked up the US Central 1A. Now go back here, and we have tried this one. Now let's try this auto tfvars. I'm going to delete this file, copy this, and delete this file. Go back to the, create a new file. So I will say, what was the variable? My variable values. So that's the file name. I will paste the same value here. Now let's, for a fun, let's make it a B. So let's clear this and run the Terraform plans, because we have this file with auto tfvars. You should pick up this file automatically and apply this. So let's run. Okay, here we go. It did not ask me anything, that did not complain, and pick up this file, and it used this variable from here. Now let's go to the third one, which is I can have any file name with the tfvars extension. Go back here, and I will rename this file. Instead of new again, I'll remove the auto, and let's try without passing the variable, the file name as an argument here, and see that what happens. Okay, it did not pick up values from this file, because this file should be either terraform.tfvars or the extension should be .auto.tfvars. Then only it will pick up. Now it is not able to pick up this file, so let's stop it here, and let us pass this variable. Let me copy the file name. See, it has picked up the file, and it has picked up the zone as a Control C. We have experimented how we can supply the variables through the files, three different type of files. We have checked the environment variables, we have checked the UI input as well. We can experiment some of the data types. I will try to use some of the data types, but I may not be able to cover everything, but I will try to use a couple of data types. Go to the variable, and so let's start with the map. What I will do here, I'll say type is equal to map default the central one A. example, I will use this as a map. Do I go to the main, I will remove this region from here, say where dot VM zones, and I will supply region here, change this location. This does not make sense. Go back here, copy the same thing, paste it here, check it to zone. So VM location is a map. Default is this US Central. So in the default we have the region and the zone defined. Now let's go to the variables file, and here we will define this as a map. Change it US East. So if I pass this variable, it should pick up the east, and if I don't pass this variable file, it should pick up this US Central, which is I have defined the default values here, and these values will be replaced as I pass them on the command line. Terraform plan, I will not pass any variable here. So now let us see. It has picked up the US Central 1A as a zone. Now let's pass that file. Let's see. Undeclared variables. So US Central 1A. Okay, it has not applied that variable. So let's see what is the problem. Value of undeclared variables. The root module do not declare the variable in VM zone. Okay, let's see what's the problem. Okay, here we go. Here we have the location here, and so let's change it to. Let's try this again. Here we go. Warning, and it has picked up the US East 1B. That's how we supply the variable in the map. Let's try utilizing the list here. To do that, let's go into the project 1. Let's have this firewall stuff copied. And let's copy that here. This source range, actually we will supply this as a list, and the ports also we can supply as a list. So let's try that. So we'll define variable firewall ports. We'll supply this one as side door. So we will, both of them will use list type. List of string fold is equal to inside here. Actually, let's change those values. And this I'm going to use these values plus I will add one more 23306. But here I'm going to use a different list. Let's have two different values. Here's the default, and this is the values which we are passing from here. And let's use these variables inside our. Let's change this one. Say where dot firewall ports. This also where dot firewall CIDRs. Save this. Now let's create. I will give this instance name as, for example, default. Okay, so let's try this. Terraform plan, I will go with our defaults. So it is saying it will get 3 of the resources, going with central A, and your source range is 000 and ports are 18. So this is how it is going to create this one. And if I go and say apply, started creating this instance, and if I go to the network firewall rules, and here if you see here it has created this one, this firewall rule AT. Compute engine has been communicated to the central 1A. Now change it. Let's try this. Now it is saying that one will be added, one change, and one destroy. Here the instance will be replaced. Here it has added this. This will be updated actually. You see, this will be removed. This will be added as well. This allow, this will be removed. This will replace with this block. The zone will be changed. Okay, A2 instead of, and let's apply. Say yes. Okay, it is not able to create this VM because it did not change the IP. It just changed the zone, but it did not change the IP, and it is using the NAT IP. So that's a problem. So it is using this permanent IP address. So let's not use the permanent IP, and let's try without permanent IP. So if you see that firewall may have been changed, this firewall has been changed here. It has added 3306, but it was not able to create the VM because the static IP issue. So let it create the dynamic IP. If I try to run this again, so it is saying it will add only VM instance. Let's try this. Okay, so this instance has been created. If you see, it has created into QS East 1B, which has been picked up from this variable. It has gone into the region central, sorry, east, and zone east 1B. You can try this locals. Let's try that one here. So let's create the top here. I can do one thing. I can copy stuff on there. So I have defined locals owner name is suppose central DevOps, VM type is nginx, and created another locals. In that I said common tags is equal to owner and the type, and reference this local owner name, this locals VM type here. So you can have the nested locals if there is a requirement like that. And I will go ahead and use this one, and it will create a metadata with these two values in that. So let's try this again. So it is saying it is changed. Only one change has been applied. If you see here, metadata, owner and type has been updated. So I'll say yes to this. Okay, this has been completed. I'll refresh this one. And I will go inside this configuration and go into the metadata. So here say custom metadata owner is central DevOps type is nginx. So that has been added. If any data which has to be used across the configuration file, don't use into the locals, otherwise it will create lots of trouble. I think I have covered everything in this slide, so just try all those things yourself and let me know if you have any trouble. Thank you.